let me call this meeting to order. I am not the current chair, but I'm the immediate past chair of the commission. My name is Greg Nichols. I'm joined by Commissioner Rory O'Sullivan, Commissioner Nalima Shah, and Commissioner E.J. Juarez. And I want to welcome them on this early Saturday morning. And I want to welcome all of you who have joined us either in person in the Bertha Landis room at City Hall or via Zoom from wherever you might be. We are expecting our chair, Commissioner Malaba, but at this point, she has not joined us. She may be having technical difficulties, or we don't know. But in respect for your time, we will go ahead and get started, and I hope that Commissioner Malaba joins us very shortly. First, let me acknowledge that we are located on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Duwamish, Suquamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot tribes, a people who are still here and continue to honor their heritage. Let me ask for a motion to adopt the minutes. Which meetings do we have minutes for, Elsa? I don't have them right in front of me.
We actually don't have minutes for this meeting. We will do the business probably on Wednesday. Very good. Then we will skip that. I won't look for such a motion. We'll move ahead, though, to the approval of the agenda. Very simple agenda. Our purpose today, of course, is to hear from the public. This is the third and at least at this point, final scheduled public forum on the proposed maps and specifically the draft map that is before us. And beyond that, really, we have no other agenda today. So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
And seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We've adopted the agenda for today's meeting. We now typically will spend just a moment to allow commissioners to acknowledge that they have had a chance to look at the public comment that has come in since our last meeting. Have commissioners had the opportunity to review those public comments?
Yes.
Very good. And I will just note that there are a fair number from this morning. So I want to thank the public who are paying attention and allowing us to hear from them via whatever method you are using. We are getting those comments and we are paying attention to them. And then if there have been any contacts that commissioners have had that they feel might be a potential conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest. I see none. Thank you, commissioners. Then we will move forward. The agenda has I wasn't prepared to chair today, so I apologize if I'm a little bit discombobulated. The agenda calls for us to move to, I believe, public. No, we're going to describe the purpose of this forum and the process. So we have a slide presentation here that will walk us through that. So let's move forward on that slide presentation. The city of Seattle historically has had 9 districts that were, or 9 council seats, all of which were at large. That changed in 2013 with the adoption by the voters of Seattle of a charter amendment that set aside 2 at-large city council seats and 7 single-member districts. It laid out specifically what those districts would be. And it set out a process for those districts to be altered in the future, specifically when a new US Census was available that would give us more information about where people are living in the city. We are charged as a commission with following the directives of the charter, plus appropriate state and national federal law. And we have worked hard for 9-10 months now in trying to achieve that. On August 2nd, the commissioners met after much public comment and a great deal of conversation amongst the commissioners in public session. We adopted a draft map, and that draft map is the middle map that you see on your screen or in the room. And then a couple of weeks ago, because of comments that we had received from the public, we adopted some amendments to that draft map, and that is what is before us today, and that is the third map on this page. Next page, please. Oh, there we go. There are, well, I'm not sure what this is showing us.
Commissioner, I think these are some considerations that were discussed during the last meeting where you weren't there. So maybe another commissioner might be able to explain some of those potential changes.
Sure.
So these haven't been adopted, but are possibly
Correct.
moved by a member of the commission.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioners asked staff to share with the public what were those potential changes that were being considered without being adopted yet.
Okay, very good. So for members of the public, these are not changes that have been made to the draft map or the amended draft map. They are under consideration by one or more members of the commission, again, based on public comment and further deliberation by commission members. I'm not sure, since they are not officially before us, it's appropriate to go into a great deal of detail, but this will give you an idea of what one or more commissioners are considering as further amendments to the map. Next slide, please. So the public comment period gives us the opportunity to hear your concerns and issues related to the process and the draft maps. I will call people who have signed up ahead of time first. And if you are not signed up ahead of time, that's fine. You will get a chance to speak, but we will call upon those who signed up ahead of time first. We will then go back and forth between the folks who raised their hand in the Zoom, and that's how we will recognize you, or are in the room and indicate to staff that you wish to be recognized to speak before the commission. When you do get your opportunity to speak, please clearly provide your name and the district from which you reside. And we want your comments to be clear and concise. There may be, although probably not, but there may be follow-up questions from commissioners, and you will have 3 minutes to present your comments. After you speak, if you're on Zoom, please lower your hand so that we can then go to the next person who hasn't had a chance to speak. With that, are there any comments from commissioners before I call on our first speaker? All right, very good. Thank you. And again, thank you all for being here. There are lots of things going on in your lives, and you could have chosen any one of those in lieu of this, but you are here to participate in an important process that will determine for the next 10 years the voting boundaries for our council districts. The first person on the list in front of me is Janet Smith. Janet Smith, are you with us? Either in the room or on Zoom? Janet Smith. Don't see Janet. Detra Seeger, to be followed by Janice Travern. Detra Seeger. Detra Seeger. Okay, Janice Travern, to be followed by Ann Goose. Janice Travern, are you with us, Janice? Ann Goose, to be followed by Joanna Cullen.
Hello, commissioners, and thank you, Commissioner Nichols, for this opportunity to testify. And it's always good to be in front of you, even by Zoom. On behalf of the Magnolia Chamber of Commerce, we continue to support Magnolia as a distinct community of interest, primarily given its geographic and topographical attributes that we think are unique within Seattle. We also have a strong legislative interest in being in a single council district, given the access to our peninsula continues to be one of the most critical issues to the 4 business districts and residents of Magnolia. We are particularly concerned given our recent history where we have lost bridges due to natural disasters and issues that many of our residents face simply because we're on hills that like to slide. So it's really an important issue that we continue to be connected to our 3 access points and to 15th Avenue West. We also are going to provide additional information about the Magnolia Peninsula as a clearly defined community of interest, including its history of strong voter engagement. I've had the honor of running 3 levy campaigns, one for the Seattle Public Schools and 2 for the King County Automated Fingerprint Identification System. As any levy supporter knows, or any levy manager knows, the first step in any successful levy campaign is identifying high voter turnout, neighborhoods, and their history of supporting levies. Seattle and the state must deal with a regressive tax system that makes levies essential for good government funding, particularly of public resources. One tool that we have is to tax property owners for services that benefit all of Seattle. Magnolia not only votes in very high numbers as an engaged neighborhood, its precincts and homeowners strongly support Seattle Public Schools, Seattle Libraries, public parks, Seattle Transportation, light rail, public safety, and I anticipate that we'll be supporting future levies on all of those issues. Though relatively easy to negate the value of neighborhoods and homes, property taxes and levies are an essential tool and a part of what makes Magnolia important to the city of Seattle. The social compact of representative democracy is being tested 100 different ways in our country and in our city. We ask the commission to rely on the principles of representative government, fair and impartial redistricting that honors all communities and interests of Seattle, regardless of color, ethnicity, socioeconomic background, and lifestyle. And we hope this process encourages harmony between neighborhoods and doesn't divide. Thanks.
Thank you, Ann. Joanna Cullen, to be followed by Gail Shinazaki. Joanna Cullen. Joanna, are you with us?
Yes, I just
Okay.
now got the message to unmute.
Welcome.
Hi. So first I wanted to thank the commission for your transparency in all of your work, and for all of your drafts have kept the central areas and neighborhoods, in one district. And it's a important neighborhood in that it's been working together to build strong programs for its youth and seniors and its cultural past. And it's a vibrant cultural district that reflects a lot of the African American history. And we've been working really hard on that. And thank you for keeping us whole. I also want to thank you for the draft maps, always keeping District 4 north of the Ship Canal and District 3 south of the Ship Canal. And and also thank you for paying attention to the equity issues that have been presented by Redistricting for Justice. I think they have made very valuable contributions. And I hope you can resolve the issue in Fremont, because I see that there is a balance of issues with Magnolia. I feel like the map does need to make sure that Magnolia has good access to each other. And then most current map that you have drawn does answer that, although it does. I know there's been some desire by groups to keep the renters in Magnolia interbay with the renters in Queen Anne, Lower Queen Anne. I think that's a difficult ask if you want to keep if you want to have good access for Magnolia residents to their district. So anyway, I just really want to thank you for your work. And I guess I still have 44 seconds, but I think I'm, let's see.
You're welcome to
Anyway, thank you.
Yield that back.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gail, Gail Shinazaki, to be followed by Ron Davis and Harold Hilseth. Gail Shinazaki. Gail Shinazaki, are you with us? Ron Davis, to be followed by Harold Hilseth. Mr. Davis, you with us? Ron Davis. Harold Hilseth, to be followed by Amy Plattenberg. Harold Hilseth. Harold Hilseth. We'll move to Amy Plattenberg, to be followed by Crystal Haran.
I was just unmuted. This is Ron Davis.
Ron Davis, welcome, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. It's all right if I go?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I had a little technical issue. All right. Thank you so much. I'm Ron Davis. I've testified before. Some of you know and some of you don't. I'm on the board of the Roosevelt Neighborhood Association, University YMCA, Seattle Subway, and FutureWise, and active with the 46 Dems and King County Dems. After the last forum, I was happy to see that the vast majority of people testifying in that meeting and over time have spoken in favor of the RJS map or the principles that they engender. And many of those testifying were speaking on behalf of community groups, and so really represent a staggering swath of Seattle residents. Now, it's true, I saw that some folks were arguing for changes, but I know that noted it was just a few, and they mostly all represented the same interest group. And I slept most soundly knowing that the change they wanted, a United Magnolia, which is a legitimate ask, could be accomplished by adopting the RJS map. What a disappointment it was to wake up to this new map. If Magnolia split in two is a problem, what does the commission mean to say when it dices a renter-heavy neighborhood into 3 districts and creates a water crossing while doing so? Now, it's been said that this map may have been a technocratic fix in the press, something about equal numbers of renters and districts. I'd like to give you the benefit of the doubt. There were certainly times in my own journey when I've been caught up in sort of just so technocratic answers as substitutes for the deep work of answering real questions of justice. But I want to be clear here. This isn't just about some net voter score across the city or whether the last race would have come out the same. It's about dignity and respect and an out loud statement by the city. And the charter is pretty clear that those are the guidelines we follow. Now, it's clear to me that you are all here because you want to serve the public, and I believe deeply in my heart that you do not want to send the wrong message. But if this map is passed, the statement from our government will be the same sickening sound we've heard for generation after generation. And that is, if your community is rich and white and loud, it matters more than the ones that are brown or full of renters or too busy to testify. We have to stop sending that message. And if we don't stop sending it in Seattle 2022, it's hard to understand when we ever will. Now, maybe you secretly wonder if you adopt the RJS map, if it looks like you took a shortcut, right? Because they did their work, you're supposed to be doing your work. But the RJS map is a synthesis, and it's supported by a broad coalition, and you can do excellent work without showing off expertise in cartographic creation. The RJS map doesn't split Magnolia. It doesn't blow Fremont to smithereens. It restores community connections in North Seattle. It complies beautifully with the charter, and it sends the right message. I strongly urge you to adopt it, and I yield any time left.
Thank you, Ron. Ron is followed by Harold Hilseth and then Amy Plantenberg. Harold Hilseth. We'll move to Amy Plantenberg to be followed by Crystal Haran. Amy Plantenberg, are you with us? Crystal Haran to be followed by Claudia Hayden. Crystal Haran. Okay. Claudia Hayden to be followed by Miriam Bayo. Claudia, are you with us? Miriam Bayo to be followed by Neray Petty. Miriam Bayo. I see someone
I've
moving.
lost sound. Is that just me?
So, pardon me?
I'll work on that. I apologize.
I thought I saw someone moving in the Landis.
Yeah, we have Naire in the room.
All right, so Miriam Bayo, let me call for Miriam one more time. Don't see Miriam. Neray Petty.
All right. Good morning. My name is Nairi Petty, and I live in City Council District 2.
Welcome.
I'm here as a representative of Redistricting Justice for Seattle, a coalition of multiple organizations and community members who advocate for fair and transparent redistricting, which prioritizes Black, Brown, and Indigenous people of color, renter, and low-income communities in decision-making to achieve equitable representation in our city. First, I'll start by thanking the Commission for your decision to keep my district a majority BIPOC district and reunite historically significant Yesler Terrace in one district. However, as an advocate for renter and working class rights, I must say I'm disappointed that our submitted map, which took months of community engagement, education, and advocacy, has been overshadowed by the recent priorities of a few from Magnolia's Chamber of Commerce. I stand in solidarity with Fremont Neighborhood Council, a volunteer-led council representing a working class, young, renter-heavy neighborhood. A neighborhood that does not deserve being split between 3 different districts in order to keep Magnolia, predominantly white, wealthy, single-family zone neighborhood together in one. Thus, to support FNC's request, I ask that the Commission adopts the amendment by Commissioner Malaba, which keeps Fremont within 2 districts rather than being split in 3. All in all, I ask that the Commission adopts the map proposal from RJS, which is in line with this request, and prioritizes representation for communities of color, young people, and renters in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you, Neray. Jude Ahmed to be followed by Zion Thomas. Jude Ahmed.
We have some technical with youth. She may be after, if it's okay.
Okay, so Jude is here, but not you're not set up.
Right.
For...
Just a second. Fine. Until yes.
Okay. You let me know when Jude is ready. Zion Thomas. Zion Thomas to be followed by Leica Smith. Zion Thomas. Leica Smith to be followed by Lorna Murray. Leica Smith. Lorna Murray to be followed by Chris Woodward. Lorna Murray. Chris Woodward to be followed by Catherine Stoltz. Chris Woodward. Catherine Stoltz to be followed by Joseph Lackman. Catherine Stoltz. Joseph Lackman to be followed by Andrew Hong. Joseph
Commissioners, are you able to hear?
Yes, thank you. Welcome.
Great, thank you so much. My name is Joseph Shoji Lockman. I am a policy manager at Asian Counseling and Referral Service, and also with Redistricting Justice for Seattle. And wanted to just offer a few comments today in relation to the most recent commission proposals. First and foremost, we still strongly advocate that the commission adopt the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal in its entirety because of the way that it was developed through months-long community education and engagement, ensuring that people of color, especially Black and Indigenous and other communities of color, renters, low-income, and other marginalized communities have a voice in this process. And based on extensive analysis, we confirmed that it splits the least number of folks in Seattle from their primary neighborhoods district compared to any other map proposals that we've seen. And of course, fully complies with with the charter and city and state and federal law. We're also strongly advocate that the commission adopt the amendment by Commissioner Malava, keeping Fremont within 2 districts instead of being split between 3 districts. And again, we're concerned that because of Fremont being historically working class renter heavy community, should not be split between 3 districts. And also noting that Commissioner Malava's amendment ensures that Magnolia Village is not being split up. And as a member of RJS, but also as someone who grew up, had my entire childhood and formative years in Magnolia, I can speak to the fact that a split along 34th would be, I fully agree, is not an acceptable way of dividing an area like Magnolia, but splitting along 28th as Redistricting Justice for Seattle proposes is a much better approach to the Magnolia community. Again, as someone who grew up in that area. Again, please, we hope that you'll take these ideas into consideration. And thank you again so much for your time, and I will stop there.
Thank you, Joseph. Andrew Hong to be followed by Jude Ahmed. I'm told that Jude is the technical issues have been dealt with. So we'll go with Andrew Hong, who I called, and then Jude Ahmed.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Hong. I am the statewide coordinator of Redistricting Justice for Washington. I'm here today to again advocate the commission pass the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map and make changes to the current amended draft map to be in line with the RJS map. The Redistricting Justice for Seattle map has been developed through a rigorous months-long process of thoughtful data analysis and community education, outreach, internal coalition meetings, and a lot of rigorous scrutiny within our coalition and without it. And you can can definitely assure you there was disagreement and scrutiny within our coalition for each of the different lines that we chose. And I emphasize this just to communicate to you all that the RJS map, I think it's been said so long that it's kind of in like different public hearings that it's kind of just another thing you hear. But I really want to emphasize that we considered neighborhood boundaries. We considered probably over 100 different maps. We considered communities of interest through geographic boundaries, geographic waterways, and neighborhood boundaries, as well as data analysis of renters and low income and communities of color to make sure that all different communities of interest were considered. We had public events that were made to the whole city that were dedicated to education, as well as discussion on our own map proposal. And we made sure to rigorously follow city charter, state and federal law and Voting Rights Act laws throughout the whole process, and would stand up in potential court hearings under all different laws, under any different interpretation. Our coalition includes folks, yes, primarily from the Central District and the South End, but we also have people in our coalition from Lake City, Magnolia, Green Lake, Roosevelt, Downtown, Queen Anne, and as well as Magnuson Park. This map, the RGS map, is a viable map. It has been scrutinized and has had the most specific and explicit public support of any map submitted to the commission. And we currently have a petition that has over 160 signatures from Seattleites in support of the RJS map. And also, I just want to note on a specific note, following the recent events from commission business meetings, that the Malaba amendment is in line with the commission or with the RGS map, and we appreciate Commissioner Malaba proposing her District 6 and 7 boundary edits. It helps make sure Fremont is split only within 2 districts, which in itself is not something that we want to have happen, but it's better than having it Fremont being split between 3 districts just to keep another one within 1 district. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Jude Ahmed, to be followed by Cindy Black.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you once again. My name is Jude Ahmed, and I am testifying on behalf of the Advocacy and Civic Engagement Department at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. We are a nonprofit that serves Black and underserved communities in the greater Seattle area. I want to start by highlighting the incredible work of all the community members who came out to participate in this first ever redistricting process in the city of Seattle. Redistricting is a challenging topic to talk about with the everyday resident because it's not high on the list of the most exciting topics. That is, until you point out how the political landscape of the city correlates with the visible displacement and underinvestment in communities of color and low-income communities in parts of Seattle. My dream is to see Seattle have an electoral system that was designed by the people for the people, and I mean all people. What I admire about our work on the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition is that we've made a concerted effort to reach out to Seattle residents across the entire span of our geographically large city by tapping into our personal networks and relationships we've made in the community, from our work to reach those most vulnerable to political change. Our conversations about redistricting always include discussion about housing, education, environmental, economic justice, and so forth, and this is solidarity. That's why I wholeheartedly stand behind the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal. Not everyone has time to come participate in testimony or submit a proposal in the face of a myriad of day-to-day challenges. And yet we've been able to pull together a cohesive map that takes into account the needs of Seattleites and those who have been largely disenfranchised or excluded from political processes. Thus, I ask the Commission to pass a map that closely aligns with the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal and make additional changes to your draft map to be in line with the RJS map. As we stand in solidarity, that includes standing in solidarity with members of the Fremont neighborhood. And thus, we believe that the Commission should adopt the amendment proposed by Commissioner Malaba to keep Fremont within 2 districts instead of being split between 3. The Fremont community is a historically working class, renter-heavy community. And as someone who does also rent in the city of Seattle, I know that there are policies that need to be changed to make housing more affordable, inclusive, and accessible to Black and Brown community members. And thus, we hope to see that the voting power created by this map enables those communities to have a say and a closer connection to their electeds to make these changes necessary. Thank you so much for giving me the time to speak today.
Thank you, Jude. Cindy Black will be followed by Philip Frick. Cindy Black.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. Jude's a hard act to follow, I'll just say that. My name is Cindy Black. I'm the Executive Director of Fixed Democracy First. We are also an active member of the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition. Today, I would like to say a little bit about why the Redistricting Justice of Seattle Coalition came to be. The main reason is that organizations, groups, and individuals recognize the importance of elevating voices that have been historically underrepresented, including communities of color, renters, lower income, and other marginalized communities. The RJS Coalition wanted to make sure these voices were heard and represented in the Seattle's redistricting process. Since the coalition's formation, we have reached out to many of these communities and asked for their input and experiences to make sure we could make the best map recommendations possible that would support their representation in the community. Our values have always included transparency of the data and process, ensuring equitable community input and engagement, keeping communities of interest together, and prioritizing people and communities over incumbents. We want to make sure communities of color, renters, lower income, and other marginalized people in the city have a voice, and that the new district maps ensure that happens. At this time, we recommend the Commission adopt the Malaba Amendment, which is in line with the Redistricting Justice for Seattle's proposed map. Thank you for allowing me to speak today and for all your efforts on this important redistricting process.
Thank you, Cindy. Philip Frick to be followed by Julia Boyce. I may well have mispronounced that, but Philip Frick. Julia Boyce to be followed by Teresa Huey. Julia B-U-I-S. Boyce. Teresa Huey to be followed by Deborah Cushing. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Teresa Huey. I'm joining again today as a current resident living in District 2 in the Hillman neighborhood. I am also participating as a member of the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition, a coalition of organizations working to call for an open, transparent, and community-engaged redistricting process statewide and locally. Our commission has been working over the past 7 months to lift up the voices of people of color, working class people, renters, and other marginalized populations in the redistricting process. Our coalition applauds the commissioners for their draft maps and for continuing to listen to the voices of historically divided communities in Seattle. We believe the commission should pass the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal and make changes to the draft map to be in line with the RJS map. The RJS map was developed through months-long community education, engagement, and events to ensure Black, Brown, BIPOC, renter, low-income, and other marginalized communities had a voice in this process. The RJS map splits the least number of neighbors from their neighborhood's primary district compared to any map released by the commission per a data analysis from Scott Shawcroft. So the commission should adopt the RJS map. Furthermore, the commission should adopt the Malaba Amendment to keep Fremont within 2 districts instead of being split between 3 districts. This is in line with the Redistricting Justice for Seattle's proposed map. The Fremont community is a historically working class, renter-heavy community that should not be split between 3 different districts. This would dilute the renter power in District 6. The Malaba Amendment also ensures the Magnolia Village business community is not split up, in contrast to the other commission proposal to straddle Magnolia between Districts 6 and 7. I truly appreciate this opportunity to share my testimony during this final redistricting public forum. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Teresa. Deborah Cushing, to be followed by Ruby. Deborah Cushing.
Good morning.
Welcome.
My name is Deborah Cushing. I have not previously testified, not because I'm not interested, but I really appreciated the opportunity to listen and learn about the process and the concerns of neighbors across the city. I was out of town last week, and I have to admit, when I got back, I was stunned to see that there was a new amended or proposed, not amended, configuration that, in my opinion, had gone backwards. I appreciated so much that you would listen to the Magnolia community, of which I am a member, and restored Magnolia community as a whole. So as I was looking at this process, I decided to go back to the documents and looked at what is supposed to happen under the charter. And one of the purposes, as you all know, but I was listening and learning, one of the purposes of this redistricting is allow the members of the city council to be closer to the people they represent and to enable the voters to know better their council members. Many people have put in written comments and testified previously about the significant issues that Magnolia faces, both now and in the future. And it is important, as people have stated, that we have that one voice and one city council person with whom to interact. The other requirement, of course, is that the districts be compact and contiguous. And if you came to Magnolia Village, and I know you're not Village, Magnolia community, you would really see who we are. It's easy to see who we are. And also that we were supposed to recognize waterways and geographic boundaries and Seattle communities and neighborhoods. That's very important. It's easy to do if you keep the whole Magnolia area together. Our importance of the Puget Sound to the west, I think somebody mentioned it earlier, is that we have steep slopes and unstable soils from the north at Discovery Park all the way to the south to the marina and the Magnolia Bridge. And these things affect all people living in Magnolia, and there are only 2 ways out. And we know that there are disastrous consequences that can occur as recently as this past winter to the West Slope. Of note, I want to be clear, as someone else was, that Magnolia is not insular. We vote and support tax measures to improve infrastructure and opportunities for all in Seattle. Thank you for your commitment to the process and to your time, and we really urge you to keep Magnolia whole, all of it whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Ruby, to be followed by Amy Sundberg. Ruby, I don't have your last name in front of me. Ruby Holland.
Hello.
Welcome, Ruby.
Yes, my name is Ruby Holland, and I'm here to ask that basically the CD remain whole. And I think that it pretty much looks perfect as it is, but I also wanted to piggyback and say, yes, I approve of the redistricting justice map, and I approve of what Teresa Huey has said, and the Urban League has said. I think everybody is in agreement that we want to keep the CD whole and keep the other areas as together as we possibly can. I didn't know anything about other communities. I've been working on the comprehensive plan lately, but as I listen today, I hear that you're thinking about splitting up Fremont into 3 groups, 3 districts, and I just, for some reason, that does not sound fair. So I did just want to mention that. But basically, I think the CD looks pretty good the way you've decided to work with it. Please do not let us be part of downtown, the downtown. They've been trying to take over the CD forever, and we're trying to keep them from doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruby. Amy Sundberg, to be followed by Shatan Soni. Amy Sundberg. Amy, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Good morning. My name is Amy Sundberg and I live in District 1. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear from community members today. I'm calling to support the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal. And I'm also calling on behalf of People Power Washington, which is the grassroots branch of the ACLU. And we also have signed on to support that proposal. We're very pleased that a coalition came together to support BIPOC and renter communities. I've met with people from the coalition. I've been really impressed to hear about their process and how they came up with the map and the amount of effort that they put in through community education, community engagement, all of the meetings that they held to really hear from voices from people who often don't have their voices heard in these sorts of processes. And I will say as an individual, I just feel really lucky that there are people that are so committed that went through that whole effort for all of us so that it will be good for the whole city. In addition to my support for this map, I also would like to urge you to consider the amendment put forward by Commissioner Malaba. I feel like dividing Fremont into 3 districts is fairly egregious. So I feel like this amendment, it perhaps is a good compromise because it divides Fremont into 2 instead of 3, which, isn't ideal, but is better than 3. And it also keeps the Magnolia Village business district in 1 district. So I feel like everybody is getting a little bit of what they want at least, and that could be a good compromise for the map. So thank you for listening to me, and I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Amy. Shatan Soni, to be followed by Robin Briggs. Shatan Soni. Robin Briggs, to be followed by Nicholas Warren Jeffries. Robin Briggs, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. My name is Robin Briggs. I'm currently a resident of District 3. I live in Capitol Hill, but have lived and worked in various places throughout the city. I've been following the redistricting from the start and want to thank the commission for all the work you put in. I've been really impressed with the result. I'm also with Redistricting Justice for Seattle, and I wanted to urge you to approve the Malaba amendment. This would keep Fremont within 2 districts instead of splitting it in 3. This is better for Fremont, which is a distinct neighborhood with its own unique character. The Malaba amendment will also ensure that the Magnolia Business District is not split up, and this change will give the votes of renters a better chance to be heard. This will make a good map better. Thank you very much, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Robin. Nicholas Warren Jeffries, to be followed by Steve Horvath.
My name is Nicholas Jeffries. I'm a resident of Central District of Seattle, and I'm here to testify on behalf of the Redistricting Justice of Seattle Coalition. It is disheartening that folks in certain communities cannot look past their privilege to see that folks in their cities and communities are struggling based on the color of their skin, the space where they live, and a lack of representation and decision-making in this city. The community of Magnolia's residents talk about having their communities voting power split up because of redistricting and how it will cut them off from infrastructure. But I doubt these same people cared or even thought about the impacts of systematic racism and how their wealth and power is built on the backs of Black, brown, and indigenous bodies. They say that Seattle is the most accepting city in the country, but don't want to sacrifice to make real change for those most affected by inequality. It is said that folks only talk about progress until they must confront the fact that they are accomplices and advocates for the issue. Systematic racism is a public health crisis and must be addressed, and the first step of this process is allocating resources to the most in-need communities instead of continuing to pander to those who benefit from white supremacy. It is time to change the way we think and address issues and the impacts that they have on the future of this city. So I urge City Council to make the right and equitable decision and pass the Redistricting Justice for Seattle's map proposal and make changes to the draft map to be in line with the RJS map. And furthermore, the commission should adopt Malaba Amendment to keep Fremont within 2 districts instead of being split within 3 districts. The Malaba Amendment also ensures that Magnolia Village business is not split up. If we look at the bigger picture, it's a step in the right direction for our city, state, and country. This gives renter communities the opportunity to reclaim their power and make decisions in their community. We all deserve a voice. We all deserve to manifest our greatest selves, and we all deserve to love the space we're in, not just a privileged few. I give my time back.
Thank you, Nicholas. Steve Horvath, to be followed by Alma Salisbury. Steve Horvath. Welcome, Steve.
Yes, hi, Commissioners. Steve Horvath from District 7. You've heard from me before, so thanks again for allowing me this time today. I'm going to take a little bit more of a colloquial approach. I don't know if you all get the chance to read the written comments, but I took some time to write you about a week ago with what are probably my last comments here. And, you know, for different reasons than many folks on the phone have stated today, I find the inclusion of Fremont in District 7 to be challenging. You're not tasked with prognosticating the future or worrying about what will happen during the next redistricting in a decade, but the only conclusion we can draw, as we have overwhelming amounts of evidence of where multifamily residential housing and density are going, which is into downtown, is that the population of downtown and what is most of District 7 will continue to expand faster than the rest of Seattle. And, you know, you've had to deal with this whole time, fundamentally the balancing act. You know, the waterways have sort of, we've gone across waterways now, we've gone around these things to make the population numbers work. And that's going to have to continue to happen until the charter gets amended. And we go back to a system where we don't have districts, or maybe we have 9 districts. I don't know what's going to need to happen, and none of us know if that will come to pass. But I challenge this concept that a dramatic shifts in the geography of these districts every decade, if we continue along this path, is not a good thing for the citizens of the city, regardless of their race, ethnicity, economic, socioeconomic background, whatever those factors are. I think it would behoove all of us to have districts that are a little bit more compact than this notion of including Fremont, because it's necessarily going to have to change 10 years from now when downtown grows by 30,000 more people. I'll note too, just as sort of a reaction to what I'm hearing a lot in today's call, folks may or may not realize that downtown is split into 3 districts. And as our city's most dense urban center, you know, one of my proposals this whole time has been to keep downtown together. So, you know, the fact that other neighborhoods or urban centers might be split into 2 or 3 districts is really no different than what's already taken place with downtown and what will continue to occur based on the maps that have been drawn. And thank you again for volunteering and spending so much of your time on this process. It's a huge challenge. Thanks again.
Thank you, Steve. Alma Salisbury, to be followed by Olivia Crawford. Alma.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Alma Salisbury. I live in District 2, and I've lived in the Brighton area my entire life. I'm here to urge you to adopt the map submitted by Redistricting Justice for Seattle, a coalition of community-based organizations and members. They prioritize the creation of districts that increase representations of color, whether that be in working class communities or a part of renter communities. We're also in solidarity with the Fremont Neighborhood Council, which is a renter-heavy neighborhood that should not be split into 3 different districts. Thank you for your time today, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much. Olivia Crawford, to be followed by Zaina Bakari. Olivia Crawford.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing us to speak and deliver our opinions in this space. I work in District 2 and spend a large part of my time in that area. I've always loved the idea of progressiveness, and I take it very seriously. Redistricting and moving forward must include careful consideration of communities that have historically been silenced. I believe Seattle is the quintessential liberal city. My mind instantly goes to the all-inclusive sign in the yards of many white people. I believe there is both irony and disconnect, as white liberals in Seattle won't directly discriminate against me, but their exclusive behaviors, even and especially in this process, makes it difficult to trust signages like those. We are all for diversity and community until it's in our actual backyards. It is much easier to say it than act on it in this present moment. The disconnect comes into play when we think about what appeasing to the affluent neighborhood of Magnolia, with the average household income being $172,243, means for the future. I think it's important to ask what is being upheld with fulfilling their redistricting opinions. How can we claim progressiveness when money and power, including the absence of that money and power, is always prevailing? Why does it prevail? I ask that you don't focus all of your attention on the outspoken and most visible groups, but to focus on those who might be silently suffering, or the ones like the Redistricting Justice of Seattle Coalition and the Urban League. These groups have organized individuals to fight for this cause, and that, in my opinion, is the true testament to human advocacy. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Olivia. Zaina Bakari, to be followed by Maya Manis. Zaina Bakari.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Zaina Bakari. I reside in District 4, and I serve as the Public Health Program Manager at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. I am here today to show support for the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition and stand in solidarity with Fremont Neighborhood Council. FNC represents a working-class, renter-heavy neighborhood. Their request to keep Fremont within 2 districts rather than 3 is in line with the map proposal from RJS. This map proposal took months of community engagement across diverse organizations and was informed by over 100 people to prioritize representation for communities of color, young people, and renters. In redistricting, these disenfranchised groups must be prioritized, or else as a society, we continue the unjust and unfair practice of overinvesting in certain white, wealthy neighborhoods and leaving others, low-income communities of color, with scraps. Disparities in political power lead to inequities where people live, learn, work, and play, which is of no small consequence. It leads to poorer health outcomes and, in fact, shorter lifespans in some neighborhoods compared to others, even when they are just miles apart. Research is conclusive that zip code is a greater predictor of health than genetic code. This is why low income and communities of color had the highest rates of COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. It is decisions like this, like the ones you, Seattle Redistricting Commission, get to make that either widens health gaps or closes them, and the ramifications ripple for generations. By continuing to invest in some communities over others, we reinforce the trends of low income and communities of color being the hardest hit by chronic health conditions, thus more vulnerable to current and future public health crises. If we as a city truly believe in health equity, we must align words with action now. It is not enough to say we are progressive, then refuse to make compromises that support communities disproportionately impacted by inequality. Thus, I ask that the Commission adopts the Malaba Amendment, which is in line with the map proposals from RJS, keeps Fremont 2 districts, and will lead to a more equitable Seattle and ensure that all people, not just some, can be healthy and thrive. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Zaina. Maya Manis, to be followed by Orlando Santoni. Maya Manis.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, Seattle Redistricting Commission. I am Maya Manis, Director of Advocacy and Community Engagement at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, and here supporting the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition today. I am a Washington native and have lived in this beautiful city for the past 5 years and currently live in the 2nd Seattle City Council District. One thing I believe we can all agree on is that certain neighborhoods in the city of Seattle have deteriorated in the last 10 years, while other neighborhoods have received the support and resources necessary to thrive. The deterioration of these certain neighborhoods, which are predominantly renters and low income, is because of the diminished and scattered political power these neighborhoods have within the city council districts. These neighborhoods must fight for one representative to support and advocate for their neighborhoods. Meanwhile, other neighborhoods have the political power and influence as they can support financially and politically for multiple representatives, including the citywide representatives, to support and advocate for their neighborhoods. This is inherently unequal. The only way to ensure that everyone truly has a voice and representation on city council is for an equitable, not equal approach to how district lines are drawn. This is why numerous of community members and organizations support the map drafted by Redistricting Justice for WA because it does exactly that. In addition, we are in solidarity of the Fremont Neighborhood Council to ensure that renters in the Fremont area are one and the power is not fractured. If we want to ensure that every single neighborhood has a chance of not only surviving, but thriving, the only option is to ensure that district lines are equitable. I urge that the Redistricting Commission support the map created by the Redistricting Justice Seattle Coalition because it keeps key neighborhoods together, especially neighborhoods that are primarily people of color, low-income residents, and renters, to ensure that those neighborhoods can work together and not fighting against one another for resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Orlando Santoni. Orlando, I see you have your hand up. Welcome. I want to just mention that this is the last person who signed up in advance. I have at least a couple of other people on Zoom who've raised their hands. And I know there are a couple of other people in the audience at the Bertha Knight Landis room. So we will go back and forth between the room there and the Zoom here. And we will go through and make sure everyone is heard. So Orlando, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Orlando Santoni, and I'm a District 3 resident. I want to show my support for Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition's draft map. I believe it did a great job of keeping BIPOC, renter, low income, and other marginalized communities together because the coalition ensured they had a voice in this process. The commission should pass a map that strives to emulate the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal. The commission should adopt the Malibu Amendment to keep Fremont within 2 districts instead of being split between 3 districts. This would dilute renter power in District 6, and renters are important to the city, especially as Seattle is now a renter majority city and its percentage is going to continue to grow. I believe it's important that we have districts that equitably represent the residents of these communities, and policies that favor single family communities at the expense of renters is harmful, not only to the residents of these districts, but to the democratic process as a whole. And this is all in line with the RJS's proposed map. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you, Orlando. Thank you for your patience as well. Let's go to the room, Elsa, who is next in the Bertha Knight Landis room. Would you, again, I mentioned it earlier, please state your name for the record so we know who has testified and also what council district you relate to.
Good morning. My name is Martha Toffrey, and I live in District 7, Magnolia.
I want to say that I don't know that when you all were asked to take this redistricting project on, if you knew it was going to be so darn contentious. Even if an outside group with their own agenda hadn't entered the proceedings, this was not going to be an easy task. Getting population numbers right while adhering, and I underline adhering to the rules set out in the city charter. Yet after attending one of these meetings in person, where a commission member felt it necessary to say something similar to this, that there are no politics here, I realized that the opposite is true. It has turned into all politics. Then there have been the nasty names for people who live in Magnolia, and I speak of the first Zoom attendee from the Roosevelt neighborhood to a member of the Post Online. I'm here to say that we are regular people here in Magnolia, just like every other neighborhood. We have a mixed group. There are big houses on the boulevard, just as there are in other parts of the city. We have apartments, condos, duplexes, low-income housing, with more to come as Fort Lawton, the Fort Lawton project is now at HUD for their review. Magnolia stands out because of its geography. This should be a plus in this instant, as geography is a charter criteria. The special interest group could have easily picked on Laurelhurst, as it also has big houses, big lots, a waterfront, and is probably richer than Magnolia, but it doesn't stand out on a map as much. Not such an easy target. I don't know why the commissioners don't follow the rules set out in the charter. There is absolutely no reason to split Magnolia on the map, either at 34th or 28th. Let's keep it one piece, including the access bridges onto 15th Avenue. In addition, I would also understand the commission's desires for apartment dwellers, but aggregating them together isn't going to make them vote more often. Something additional needs to be done. Please revisit Mayor Nichols' map while closing your ears to special interest and their divisive agenda, and keep Magnolia whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Jennifer Nagel on Zoom. Welcome, Jennifer.
Well, thank you so much to the commission for having this meeting and hearing all of our comments. I'm a resident of Magnolia. I've been here almost 40 years, and I just wanted to dovetail on some things that were said by Martha and earlier. We have the 3 access points to Magnolia, so we're very much a peninsula. And I don't know if people in other districts realize there are a lot of renters, there are a lot of seniors, people of low income, some people who cannot drive, who are dependent on the buses. And our main buses here go to downtown, they go across the Magnolia Bridge. And if we are separated, the people in the north end of Magnolia will not have a say over the replacement of the Magnolia Bridge, which needs to happen. And so we really do need to be kept together as a community. We are a diverse community. There are people here of lower income, even some people of mixed race. I know that that might not be believed, but we're becoming more diverse, and we do need to have access to our community. So I want to thank you very much for your time, and please keep us in mind and keep us whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Elsa, you have another speaker in the room?
Yes.
Yes, hello. My name's Tara Gallagher. I'm in District 6, a longtime Fremonster. I'm also board member of the 43rd District Democrats and the 46th District Democrats. That's 2 organizations, because last year, at the very last minute, Fremont got torn into 3 state legislative districts. And now we woke up to find another 11th hour remapping issue where we've been shifted across the water to District 7. Fremont is supposed to be the center of the universe, not neighborhood to kick around at the last minute when you have problems with the map. I understand the issues around splitting Magnolia. I hear them, I feel for them, but still the people in Magnolia, the eastern part, must have a lot more in common with Queen Anne than Fremont does. Everyone I've spoken to in Fremont feels a lot more connection with Ballard, Finney, our neighbors in District 6. We go there, we share a lot of contiguous city services with them. We know their problems, they know ours. Queen Anne is that big hill across the water. Downtown is downtown. We do not feel any connection with them. The water is a huge psychological barrier. And in fact, the water being a huge psychological barrier is part of the key to the charter that says, to the extent practical, district boundaries shall follow existing district boundaries and recognized waterways. Zigging up across the water and then immediately zigging back down across the water is not following the charter in any practical way. I urge you to please restore Fremont, the bulk of it, to District 6 with our actual neighbors who share services. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tara. Alex Cooley. Welcome, Alex. Unmute yourself, please. Thank you.
There we are, confirming I can be heard.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Alex Cooley, District 3. I also have the distinct pleasure of being the president of the Jackson Place Community Council and the Central Area Neighborhood District Council, here representing those groups that encompass almost half of D3 as it currently exists. We have been engaged in this redistricting process since the very beginning and have been very consistent with our statement of keeping the central area whole. Incredibly grateful to the commission through their diligent commitment to the process and maintaining the central area whole. We have worked in conjunction with RJS and support their map, as well as support the two previous maps presented by the commission, because it keeps the central area whole. Central area is the historic cultural center of the city. It is the historic BIPOC community of the city. Unfortunately, it is also historically the most marginalized community in the city. That is why it is incredibly important to us to remain as whole as possible, specifically on our southern boundary, which has over time slowly been eroded, and even in these maps is eroded partially. But we are willing to make compromises in order for all or many communities to remain as whole as possible. I thank you so much for your time and your commitment to keeping the central area whole.
Thank you, Alex. Elsa, you have another speaker in the room?
Yes.
Thanks. Hey, good morning, commissioners and everyone. Name's Andrew Katz. I am a resident of District 3. I've been for the past 15 years. And succinctly, because there's a lot of people who want to speak, I thank you for your time. I strongly support reverting to the RJS map and adding Commissioner Malaba's amendments for all the reasons that we've heard today. As a renter who understands the economic forces at work, preserving the incumbency of property owners historically here through zoning and previously through redlining, the idea that folks asking for economic and racial justice are special interest groups is mildly offensive, but I want to stick to the issues. I think that Fremont's needs shouldn't be placed behind Magnolia's or other neighborhoods such as downtown that have been split in pieces. So I strongly urge you to reconsider an action that was taken relatively quickly and can be reverted just as quickly. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Camille, welcome.
Hi, yes, thank you for hearing me speak. My name's Camille.
Camille, you're muted again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for hearing me speak. My name's Camille. I'm in District 5. I'm also a member of People Power Washington. I want to thank the commissioners for this opportunity. And I want to ask them to honor the RJS map. I've really been impressed with the months of work and community engagement that that was done in order to create a map that was developed through an equity lens to really ensure that Black, Indigenous, and communities of color, as well as renter and low-income communities, have representation. I know that the most recent changes were made based on complaints of a few Magnolia residents. And yes, to respond to some previous callers, there are some renters and people of low income in Magnolia, but the Magnolia demographic is a largely white, wealthy property owners whose political power is not really in danger of being diluted. In the words of Franklin Leonard, when you're accustomed to privilege, equity feels like oppression. And I want to urge the Commission to pass the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal and adopt the Malaba Amendment to keep Fremont a historically working class and renter heavy community within 2 districts instead of being in 3 districts. The Malaba Amendment also ensures that the Magnolia Village business community is not split. Passing the RJS map and adopting the amendment splits the least number of neighbors from their community, from their neighborhood's primary district compared to any other map being proposed. And it ensures that BIPOC communities and renter communities have representation. Thank you, and I'll yield my time.
Thank you, Camille. Next, is there another speaker in the room, Elsa?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, there is one. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, there's one. Hold on just
Let's
a second.
Welcome them to the microphone.
Hello, my name is Eddie. I live in District 2. Yeah, thank you guys for having this today. Let's see. For renter and working classes, I must say I'm disappointed that I'm advocating for redistricting justice, and I just want to say that I'm disappointed that the map that was submitted, which took months of community engagement, education, and advocacy, has been overshadowed by the recent priorities of Magnolia's Chamber of Commerce. I stand in solidarity with the Fremont Neighborhood Council, volunteer-led city council representing working class, young renter, heavy neighborhood, a neighborhood that does not deserve being split between 3 different districts in order to keep Magnolia predominantly white, wealthy, single, family-zoned neighborhood together in one. Thus, to support the FNC's request, I ask that the Commission adopt the amendment by Commissioner Malaba, which keeps Fremont within 2 districts rather than being split in 3. All in one, I ask that the Commission adopt the map proposal for RJS, which is in line with the request and prioritizes representation from communities of color, young people, and renters. And I just want to make sure that, that our voices are heard, because we didn't have a voice when our communities were redlined. So our voices should be heard this time in this part of history. So be a part of history and help us be on point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yield my time.
Thank you. I see Joanna Cullen has her hand raised, but Joanna, you've already spoken. So I'm going to go ahead and take folks who have not yet spoken. The next hand that I see raised is the Seattle Times Mental Health. please identify yourself and address the commission. Well, Seattle Times Mental Health just unlowered their hands.
Yes, I'm
very good.
Well, I'm Sherry Q. I'm a Magnolia resident. I'm a renter living in Magnolia. I am not wealthy, and I am concerned about the prejudice that has been expressed about Magnolia. Magnolia is changing. We have lots of multifamily housing. It continues to go in that direction, and all of us, regardless of wealth or whether we're property owners, we all have geographic concerns about limited access. In case of a disaster. So I would like to say that I think it's very important to keep.
We've lost your sound. You may have frozen.
Access to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, a hand raised is Katie of Win-Win.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Katie Stoltz. It's great to see you all again during this final public hearing. It has been a marathon of a process. I just wanted to say thank you to all the commissioners and to the staff for your commitment to public engagement throughout this process. I think the first time we chatted was in April. And so I think you just continued that commitment, and we're really very grateful for that. I'm also joining today as a member of the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition. I currently live in the Green Lake neighborhood, but I've lived in Lake City and the U District over the past 15 years, in King County my entire life. I want to touch today specifically on the community engagement that we have seen throughout this process since May. The Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition, as you've heard from many folks today, has organized multiple community forums and public education opportunities outside of even the public hearings offered by the commission. This coalition has worked to gather representation at every public hearing since the first public hearing on May 15th for District 7 and May 19th for District 1. In comparison, the North Seattle districts in Seattle didn't hold their forums until the end of July, giving those districts over 2 more months to organize. Since May, our coalition has gathered over 100 members of our coalition and supporters list and almost 170 petition sign-ons from all 7 districts in the city in support of the RJS map proposal. You've heard from many of the folks today representing those supporters. We are so proud of the work of this coalition and members of the community that have kept a consistent presence throughout this process to make sure that the voices of historical BIPOC communities, renter communities, and young people across the city who have for years been underrepresented in Seattle have been heard in this process. We're also not just here to organize in historic numbers, only to be overlooked in the final moments of this process. When Seattle moved to a 7-district council, the original intent was to ensure that Seattleites across the city were represented, not just one neighborhood or area, which was reflective of the current at-large city council. So I'm here to ask that this commission keeps that same intent and to ensure that this final map represents the voices and interests of the whole city and not just one louder, wealthier, and historically white neighborhood. In closing, as noted by many members today, just overall, we ask that we urge you to pass the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map proposal, and if changes are made, that they're in line with that proposal, and that specifically you adopt the allowable amendment to keep Fremont within two districts instead of being split between 3 districts. Thank you all so much for your leadership as this commission. I want to reiterate as a testifier just before us, please take this moment to make history and make sure that the voices across the city are represented in this final map. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Katie. Julianne Kempf, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Nichols. I'm Julianne Kempf, a 23-year resident of Northeast Green Lake. I am the former vice chair of the Green Lake Community Council, active in the League of Women Voters, and the current chair of the 46th District Democrats. But I testify today as simply a resident of District 6. I thank you to the Commission for their transparent and thorough process during the past year. And I rise today to add another voice to urge the Commission to adopt the Redistricting Justice for Seattle map. Others have spoken more eloquently and completely than I could about the rigorous process RJS underwent to develop their proposed map. Others have also spoken of the importance of keeping Fremont together and the Central District together. I would like to speak to another important aspect of the Redistricting Justice map, the inclusion of the Green Lake neighborhood in one district with Roosevelt and Wallingford neighborhoods. It has never made sense for Green Lake to be a part of District 6. The Northeast Green Lake Business District and neighborhood is very much part and parcel of the Roosevelt Business District, underscored incredibly by the recent opening of the light rail station at Roosevelt, which is very much in our neighborhood in Northeast Green Lake. And the southern part of the Green Lake neighborhood is very much linked to the Wallingford Business District and neighborhood. We are connected with Roosevelt and Wallingford in walk distance, in our increased density and diversity as we grow as neighborhoods, and we are very much one tight community. It has never made sense for North Green Lake to be an unrelated appendage to District 6, with whom we do not share that much as a Seattle neighborhood. As our density and diversity grows, we've had an explosion of growth in all three of these neighborhoods that is very linked together in our deeply intertwined communities. And we urge you to adopt the Redistricting Justice map, which would give our Green Lake, Roosevelt, Wallingford neighborhood one council member to advocate for our very intertwined needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Julianne. Carolyn is the next person whose hand is raised who hasn't spoken.
Hi. Yes, my name is Caroline. I am a current Queen Anne resident, but prior to living in Queen Anne, lived in the University District for about 7 years. I just wanted to get on basically to acknowledge this is a process I came into a lot later than I really wish I had. I wish I'd been doing more advocacy for longer, but as I've researched this topic more recently, I just really want to voice my support for the RJS map and advocate for all of the work and community engagement that they put forth. That's a really huge effort. As someone who has a master's in public administration, I know how complicated putting all of that together is. As someone who lives in Queen Anne, I can also speak for the fact that putting Fremont in with Queen Anne really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. As much as I love visiting Fremont, it does feel like the needs of those two communities and what the feel of those communities like is pretty separate. But yeah, just wanted to thank everyone for their time and voice my support for the RJS map. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Lorna Murray has her hand up. You were called earlier, but weren't able to speak at that point. So welcome and please address the commission.
Hi, I'm calling in today just to voice my support for the redistricting justice map proposal, and I think it's important to note too that as the Seattle Public Schools School Board is determining what their redistricting plan is, there's a new amendment to also take the recommendation of the Seattle redistricting justice map proposal to more closely align the both of the school board and city council seats. So I sure hope that all that work that the group has done is recognized, and the commission goes with that one. Thanks.
Thank you, Lorna. Let me just say that is the last hand of a person who has not spoken. We were joined some time ago by our chair, Commissioner Patience Malaba. I just now looked at my text list of messages and noticed that she has been with us for a while, listening to the comments that we have gotten after she was able to fix a Wi-Fi connection problem. So Commissioner, let me turn it back to you. I see there is one more hand that has now been raised from a person who hasn't spoken. Please take your rightful place as chair of the hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Nichols, and thank you for a well-run public forum. Next up, we do have Patrick Kraft with their hand raised up. But before we go to you, Patrick, I believe Commissioner Shah was getting ready to comment.
Oh, good. Okay, sorry.
For the last public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have a comment at the end of all of the public comments, but I don't think I have my hand up. I must have unmuted by mistake. Sorry about that.
Great. So over to you, Patrick Kraft.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. Appreciate this moment to speak. My name is Pat Kraft, and I do represent the Magnolia Chamber of Commerce as senior advisor and former two-time president. I also worked on the Magnolia Community Council Board of Trustees for many years. I've been involved with Magnolia for over 20 years. I'm also a residential realtor working all over greater Seattle in every price point, every demographic, which has allowed me to embrace and come to love every single neighborhood, has helped clients invest in those neighborhoods. I'm quite familiar with city expenditures and communities and various topographies and benefits of all these different areas. I'd like to point out that the outrage that Magnolia expresses is not has been misinterpreted. The outrage is about having a voice at the table. When we saw the initial maps, it was outrageous that we've been cut in half, that there's been some gross misinterpretation of what Magnolia is or has been or looks to be in the future. And that's why we speak up. Now, however we got here, we're here, and this is a public forum for that cause. And that's why we are speaking up on behalf of the 20,000 people who live here. I think there's a great unfamiliarity with Magnolia, and I'm glad to see that map represents what we are, in fact. In fact, Seattle's about 7 hills. Magnolia is one of those hills. Topography-wise, we're isolated on 3 sides by water. The 4th side, the east side, is a major transportation corridor, which I don't think is wholly appreciated. So that if you're a Magnolia, and picture it as a home, and you walk out your front door, and our front door is the major transportation corridor. That is the subject of many future-looking projects. So understand us as a land, a topography, a neighborhood that wants a voice at the table, a voice for what's going on in the city, a voice for what we vote and pay for, a voice for what we maintain and what we stand up for every day. I've spent years advocating for this community, and I can guarantee you, I've walked the halls, sat in the meetings, written the letters, and Magnolia is underrepresented in the city's decisions. I would call anyone to pick up what's commonly known as a heat map. A heat map is a capital expenditure of the city. If you look at those heat maps, look across all departments, you will see that there's a great deal of wonderful expenditure across the city, leaving out Magnolia. Now that comes and goes from different budgetary reasons, but I can tell you what we have and what we don't have and why we speak up today to be included as whole so that we have a whole voice at the table. Dividing us in any way is, well, it's offensive for who we are and who we want to be. So look at the map. When you're take a look at who we are, understand all the expenditures we're involved in. I couldn't possibly do it in 23 seconds, but you've been a whole misinterpretation of the needs we have, the issues we speak to, and why we need to have representation downtown at City Hall. Thank you.
Patrick, thank you. Joanna Cullen, we have you with your hand up. And I know you testified earlier, but this will be a second opportunity for you to testify.
Mainly I wanted to say that I listened to last Tuesday's meeting, and I knew that Commissioner Malava had an amendment, but I haven't. So I was on a road trip, and I just got back late last night. And I haven't been actually, and it seemed like a good amendment, and people have been referencing it, but I can't find it on the website unless I listen to the whole meeting again, I guess, because the minutes aren't up yet. So I was wondering if it is on the website, because I probably would have or might have testified specifically in favor of that, but I could not compare it to the other maps because I can't find it listed on your website. And I couldn't share it with other people that asked me a few questions because without saying, listen to the whole meeting. So I was wondering if it is somewhere and I'm just not seeing it.
Thank you for the question, Joanna. Staff, do you want to speak out on where they can find the considerations around amendments? These will be discussed at our next meeting on Wednesday as well.
I could do a lot of
Commissioner, we were able to, as per our last discussion, to send out a massive email with the links to it. We are happy to send it out to the public after this meeting again. It was hard to put it on the website without confusing the public about what was a potential change or an amendment until the commission makes an official announcement, but we can make it available. It's going to be in our minutes as well, and we can upload it as soon as Monday.
Thank you, Elsa. And thank you, Joanne, for that question. The amendments will certainly be available for the public to review. We had discussions at our last meeting where they were shared, and that is where many of the public comments are coming from, having reviewed the material that was sent as follow-up. With that, we are at the last point of public comment and would like to give just one more round of opportunity for folks to testify. If we have anyone in the room or in the virtual room who would like to testify. Going once and going twice. All right, we'll go ahead and conclude our public comment. I must say how inspired and encouraged I am in listening to all of you testify this morning. Folks who showed up in person, those of you showing up virtually on a Saturday morning, it's just encouraging as a community to be in this place. And it's not just public comment at a 30,000 feet level, it's with specific feedback that has been helpful for all of us as commissioners in collectively thinking of what an ultimate map would look like. So before I go into my comments, personally responding to the public, I would like to invite commissioners to go first. I know this is an opportunity that we have for the last public forum to really interact with the public in preparation next week at our meeting to get closer to concluding on amendments. So we'll start with Commissioner Shah, then move on to Commissioner Nichols.
Thank you. And I want to echo our chair's comments of so many people participating and taking time. It's certainly very helpful. And I have to say, I've gotten to know the city better and better at every discussion and community forum. There are a few things I wanted to clarify. I think, we're referring to things as amendments that weren't voted on. We shared ideas at the last meeting, and I think we're still figuring out, the best way to put out ideas and get back feedback. So one thing I would say is that personally, I've never intended, and I think we said this at the last meeting, to have Fremont be in 3 different districts. And so it might have been a mistake to adopt a map to show an idea rather than find some other means. But I just want to preview for the next meeting that Commissioner Sullivan and I have worked together on a map that keeps Fremont in 2 districts, not 3, and using the boundaries of 50th and 8th, which are requested by Fremont. So we'll be showing that in the meeting coming up on Wednesday. Secondly, I think there seems to be a difference in between what the RJS Coalition believes to be the neighborhood lines for Magnolia versus what Magnolia residents are saying, and Magnolia seems to want to go much farther east to 15th, and the Valor Bridge. So I think there's some disagreement there. And then, I'd like to reiterate that the commission worked really hard to keep communities of interest together in District 2, District 3, the Central District, to keep District 3 south of the Cut, keep renters in South Lake Union, East Lake, the University District, Northgate, and Lake City together. We have not been successful due to the population numbers to keep every neighborhood in the districts that they wanted to be in. And I wish that we had a magic wand and could put everyone where they want to go. But I know East Lake wanted to be in District 3, and Pioneer Square has said they want to be in District 7. And Magnolia wants to be with Queen Anne. And these things are, just population wise and numerically not possible without making lots of other disruptions that I think would make folks unhappy. But I do want to thank the RJS Coalition for all their work from the beginning, and the Magnolia Community Council for their recent memo articulating the serious infrastructure and geographic challenges in that area that I don't take lightly either. So thank you all for listening, and I look forward to continuing the process.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Nichols. You're on mute.
Thank you. First, I want to apologize that I did not check texts earlier to see that you were available much earlier to take over the chair. That was unintentional. I was focused on the speakers and trying to keep in line the people who had been called and the like, so I apologize. Second, I want to thank everyone who has joined with us today. It was inspiring. There are lots of things going on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And the fact that we had so many people engaged in this process was surprising to me, given as I came into this process, I thought that this would be about as attractive a subject for people as oral surgery without Novocaine. So thank you all for your engagement. You've been very helpful. During the process, we heard from the Redistricting Coalition about the need for POC communities, BIPOC communities to be kept together and respected, and we were very careful as we looked at districts 1, 2, and 3 in particular to respect that work and that perspective. As we moved along in the process and adopted a draft map, we heard from many people in the Magnolia community who were concerned about what was being done in their district or districts. And we were respectful of that and responded to that. We've now heard from the Fremont district, Fremont neighborhood, and I thank Commissioner Shaw and O'Sullivan for spending more time looking at that. I think it's an important piece. It was not your intent when you proposed amendments a couple of weeks ago, I think, to do that, and I think the commission will listen. Commissioner Malaba, you've proposed or at least looked at some additional changes that attempt to achieve the same end. So we're continuing to work. We too have had many meetings, outreach meetings, forums all over the city. We've thought a lot about the voices that we have heard and attempting to address those in the best way possible, understanding we're not going to make everybody happy and that there are some constraints on us that make it impossible for us to meet every request. The downtown community spoke today, had a couple people speaking on behalf of the downtown community. The population downtown, and I take some credit for that, having initiated some of the policies that have increased the population downtown significantly, cannot be accommodated in a single district. So the neighborhoods that comprise the downtown, we have tried very hard to be respectful and kept those together. So the Pioneer Square community is not in District 7, but it is together in the District 1. And I hope and I believe we have treated other parts of the downtown, larger downtown community with care. So thank you all. Our job is not yet done. We are not going to make everybody in the room happy, and we would certainly love to, but we will do the best possible job we can to make sure that all the communities of Seattle are given a chance for equity and representation within their communities and across the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I must reiterate that I had no intent of disrupting the great work you were doing. Commissioner Sullivan.
So I just want to note that I really appreciate the tremendous work and outreach that's been done by the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition. The values that they've expressed in terms of ensuring fair representation of traditionally marginalized communities are values that I share. I've supported and voted for maps and districts that align with their recommendations to a great extent. Their input has just been tremendously valuable throughout the redistricting process, and I continue to rely on the input that they provide. We've received public comment from hundreds of residents around Seattle, and it's been exciting to see so many communities and residents engaged with this aspect of the democratic process. We're continuing to work on building a map that really aligns with the values expressed by the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition, takes into considerations the decisions that we've already made, but also does an even better job of ensuring that residents are in the same district as the majority of their neighborhood. So again, I appreciate everyone's input and look forward to continuing to improve the maps that we're working on.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I will build, go ahead, Commissioner or Commissioner.
I'd like to let you go last. I appreciate my colleagues kind of speaking from their perspectives as we enter into these final weeks of deliberations. I think I've been very consistent in my public statements around my commitment to honoring the most broad spectrum of the public and those who have participated throughout the duration of this process from day one until today. And while our work is not done, I will not be forsaking the months of engagement that have been taking place and the voices of those that have been with us, guiding us and providing expert testimony, which have got us to today. While I oppose the most recent changes, I believe they were done with the best of intention. I will continue to oppose those. I hope that the next iteration of maps more closely represent the Redistricting Justice for Seattle and Washington maps. I believe those are the most representative, the most commented on, and the most preferred by the broadest spectrum of the public. My votes will be guided by that. I'm also committed to the number of people in Magnolia who have expressed that it is unfortunate that we cannot find a solution that keeps their community whole. That is a value, just like it is for every other neighborhood, that I have tried to keep those neighborhoods together. So as we work to solve that problem, that does not change my commitment to maps that most closely represent the RJS maps. I will also speak to the fact that any assertion that we are not following the rules, as we've heard from multiple commenters, primarily from the Magnolia neighborhood, is misguided and factually incorrect. Our obligation and our commitment and the time spent on our legal obligations has been paramount in this process. I also want to comment on the amount of time we've heard about bridges and infrastructure, and specifically car infrastructure. We're doing this work for people, not for potential projects in the future, not to influence the amount of council people who could work on a potential project. This is about population, fairness, and equity. And the last thing I'll say is we've heard a lot, I think, especially over the last couple of weeks, as people's passion has come out on in this process, which I think is generally a good thing. And I think for the most part, the stability of Seattleites from across the city is really heartening. But when we start talking about what special interests are, and we start calling certain communities' interests special in patronizing tones, I find it deeply troubling, because no interest in pursuit of equal representation or equity should be downgraded or seemingly cast aspersions upon. I hope that in the next few weeks, we can get to maps that meet everybody and at least they feel satisfied with. I know that won't be the case, and that's unfortunate. But part of the obligation and duty we have as people who live in a city is to participate in a process in which everyone bears that burden at some point in the history of that city. And so while it might be this decade, it might be the next decade, you know, we're doing our best so that everybody can enjoy the city equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Warriors. Really tough act to follow and close on. I must say that we are, as a commission, working toward an equitable map. An equitable map that gives voice and fairness to all communities across the city. I have deeply appreciated the level and depth of engagement that we've seen. We've seen the work that the Redistricting Justice for Seattle Coalition has done, engaged from the start of this process until today. We've seen the level of engagement that the Magnolia Chamber of Commerce has had with us, providing their feedback. The Fremont Neighborhood Council and many other groups who have engaged with all of the vast work that you've given. And our goal has been to listen to the community and reflect that in our maps. I do intend to proceed and move forward the Malaba Amendment that works towards addressing a lot of those concerns, as has been discussed throughout the public forum. I believe it reflects a lot of the great work that the community has done in listening to all corners of the city of Seattle and working towards that equitable map that we can end up with. It seeks to ensure that we are looking at the concerns in Magnolia, preserving good parts of Magnolia really being kept wall, even though it will not be the whole neighborhood. It looks at ensuring that Fremont is not split into the 3 districts as we ended up with our revised map the last time. And it also ensures that Eastlake is kept in 1 district. So all of those considerations we've had from the community throughout this process, and it is our commitment that at the end of the day, when we look back at history, we know that the map that we ultimately ended up with really got us to a place where we were setting ourselves up for an equitable Seattle. And that remains the commitment that I have. I will say one thing that Jude said earlier. I believe it was Jude Ahmed who said the engagement on the redistricting process is not the easiest topic to get people excited. But all of you have just done an exceptional job of making this so exciting, getting people to testify from communities that are hardly ever at the table. And one of my commitments applying to the Redistricting Commission was to be sure that those voices that are never at the table are here in the decision-making process. And that remains a commitment that we have as we move in the home stretch towards the finish line. And with that, I will thank you all for the great work you are doing and ask that you continue to partner with us, provide us with your specific recommendations and feedback as we get towards finalizing our map and getting ready to submit it. The last topic we do have here is the next meeting that is scheduled for Wednesday, October 12th. That is when we will be discussing the amendments that you've had being discussed so far and getting closer to finalizing those. And with that, I will take a motion that we do close the public forum.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. We are adjourned, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.